All right, all right, all right. Welcome everybody to another exciting edition of This Week in Space. I'm your host with the most, Joan Emerson Bell. I'm a what do I do? I'm an astrologer, tarot reader, licensed mental health counselor, and I like to show up every Monday at 11-ish on the dot to tell y'all what's unfolding in space. So we come here and we talk about the weekly astrology forecast to give folks a little bit of a heads up of the energies swirling around from the celestial spheres to give you a little bit of agency, a little bit of understanding of what might be arising and how we can navigate that with some style, some grace, with an elegance and a savoir-faire. What's up, Jesse Brown? Good morning, Gina Maria. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Um, I don't think I have any announcements. I am sometimes available for tarot and astrology readings. I'll be leaving the country on September the 10th to be running a retreat in Epidavros, Greece. I'll be back in October and I'll be opening my books again. So if you're interested in getting a tarot or astrology reading, or I also do astrologically based coaching, if you're interested in any of these services, you can email me through my website, campwizardcamp.com, or hit me up through Instagram at Blind Stallion Space Wizard. And we can get something on the books for beginning, middle of October, something like that, if you are so inclined. Other than that, let's enter into this week in space. We're talking about this week in space from September the 1st, which is today, and it's kind of mind-blowing that it's already September, but hey, I'm here for it. Going through September the 7th, which will be a total lunar eclipse, and we'll be talking about that when we get to it. So, kicking us all off, Monday, September the 1st, today, Labor Day, I think that's what it is. We have Saturn stationing retrograde, or no, sorry, Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces. So, just a little map, a little overview. Saturn entered into Aries on May the 24th of 2025, and then they retrograde back into Pisces today, September the 1st. So that period of time, May the 24th through September the 1st, was our sort of testing, our field test, our proving ground for Saturn in Aries. Saturn will station direct on November the 27th, 2025 at 25 degrees and 9 arc minutes of Pisces. And then they will re-enter Aries on February the 13th of 2026 and then perfect their conjunction with Neptune. And this is a big one at 0 degrees and 45 minutes of Aries. And then Saturn will be holding it down in the cardinal fire sign of Aries all the way until April the 12th of 2028. So if you have your natal Saturn in Aries, get ready for this. And for the rest of us, Saturn is in fall in Aries. And we've already seen what that kind of feels like. And now we're getting a little bit of a break from the Saturn and Aries in fall energy, and maybe some of those pressures will be released a tiny bit as Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces starting today. So, for those of y'all with Saturn in Pisces, this is the last gasp of your Saturn return. This is like Saturn kind of coming back in to check in on you just to make sure that you have learned all of the lessons that they were asking you to learn during their time in Pisces. So, you all want to maybe pay attention to themes around commitment, responsibility, structure, and limitations. And this goes for everybody, but for the people with their natal Saturn in Pisces, this is going to be a little bit more spotlit. This is, again, Saturn coming back in and being like, did you get what I was telling you? How are you doing with that? Oh, you thought this was done? Nah, psych, 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 psych. just making sure that you are integrating the lessons that y'all have been learning over the past 2.5 years. And so, like I'm saying, issues that you've been working on over these past 2 or 3 years may circle back again and give you the chance to handle them with newfound maturity and a discipline that you have been developing in your time during that Saturn return period. And one of the things that I've found about life is that it tends to work in a circle or in a cyclical fashion where we learn a lesson and then it comes back around and we get the opportunity to make the same mistake that we've always made. And so this is your chance to be presented with a new form of the mistake that you always make and consider it and be like, what did I learn here? How can I do this differently? And as we make different decisions than our habituated patterns, than the decisions that we have always made, it sort of turns that cycle into a spiral. And we, I don't know, evolve a little bit, we grow a little bit, however you want to think about that. And we will get the same opportunity to make those mistakes again and again and again. But having made different choices in the moment gives us a little strength and a little resilience to be able to continue making new choices and grow in new ways. So, maturity is a big kind of Saturnian word. And this is one of the great lessons that Saturn has to teach us. Saturn wants us to leave childish things behind and to meet life on life's terms. Saturn wants us to get real with the conditions of our lives. They also offer the invitation to put in the work to create our preferred reality. When we work within these structures of Saturnian constraints, we are able to create things that are lasting and can withstand the test of time. But if we ignore Saturn's invitations, they sort of build into demands, and we are left in a state where we struggle against forces that are much more powerful than we are. And this usually continues on and on until we are so tired that we are forced to surrender and accept the reality as Saturn presents it to us. And that was my experience of my Saturn return, where I was like, "Nah, I got this. I can do this." And it was just like, "No, you can't. Do it differently." Until I was like, "Okay, I hear you, bro. I'm gonna take an easier, softer way." And so, as Saturn leaves Aries and moves back into Pisces from now until February 13th, 2025, they move out of the sign of their fall. Saturn in Aries has a pretty difficult time. They feel rushed and exacerbated under the pressures of the cardinal fire of Aries. And they have a hard time creating the well built and lasting structures that Saturn loves to engage with. When they move back into Aries, there may be a sense that when they move back into Pisces, there may be a sense that that pressure is sort of lifting a little bit. There may be a desire to rest or dip back into the realm of Pisces. Pisces creates the vision, and then Aries takes action to make it happen. Now that Saturn is moving back into the undifferentiated waters of Pisces, there may be a tendency to want to let go of things that we have been working on, kind of put them on hold a little bit. We may find ourselves tying up loose ends from the past few years and sorting out the structures that we were previously built, or shoring up the structures that we were previously building. This is a time for going back over the things that we have been constructing and kind of looking for leaks and weak spots. I think about Saturn and Pisces as building an ark, the thing that will help us to float on the waters of the deluge and keep us from being flooded when things get kind of overwhelming. This is a time to be rechecking the work that we have done to stabilize us and the arc that we have been building, whatever that looks like to you, that helps to support us as the tides rise. And I think this is really important work because we can't do very much when we're flooded. And so this is an opportunity to sort of work on boundaries, resilience, emotional stability. So as things intensify, as Saturn moves back into Aries in February and things feel frustrating again and hot and sort of activating, we have that emotional resilience, and we've done the boundary work to keep us safe and to keep us regulated so we don't get flooded and swept away. So with Saturn and Pisces, we also have a chance to redream the dream that we are trying to make a reality. Pisces can provide the vision that lets Saturn know what we are trying to make real. And this is really important. So, from now until February of 26, we may want to spend some time considering what is the dream that we want to dream forward? What is the vision that we want to construct in physical reality? We dipped into the frenzy of Saturn and Aries from May 24th until now, and it's been pretty intense. At least that was my experience. And now, with Saturn's retreat into the deep waters of Pisces, we have this opportunity to reconsider and revise our individual and collective vision for what the structures of our reality could and should look like. It's like going back to the drawing board and going back to bed and trying to reconnect with the dream that we almost remember. Oh, it was such a beautiful dream. Like, what was it? If I sleep for 10 more minutes, maybe I can tap back into it. But this is not time to completely tune out, but to really consider the vision that we are willing to put in the work to and give form and structure to so it can come into physical reality and to reconnect with the lessons we have been learning around boundaries and maturity over the past several years so we can bring that forward and practice it in the new territory when Saturn returns to Aries in February of 26. Um, and Sorry about that. I had to restart my program. Okay, moving right along. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Tuesday, September the 2nd. Mercury enters into Virgo. This is a sign where Mercury is exalted and has rulership, which is great. Here, Mercury's powers of communication and information gathering are used for analysis, discernment, and refinement. Mercury's rulership of Gemini is all about gathering information. But in Virgo, Mercury separates and sorts the info that they are taking in to find the right ideas or right information to utilize or communicate. Mercury in Virgo is sharp, they're quick-witted. Here, Mercury is all about precision. It is laser focus that cuts through the chaos and really zeroes in on the right information. It edits out what is extraneous and hones in on the exact thing that it's looking for. It dissects thoughts, ideas, and systems, and it looks for the right thing so it can be put to practical use. Mercury in Virgo is also dissecting. They dissect the world and and their experiences. It's an archetype of the mind. Mercury also might be dissecting its own mind, which can look like dissecting our thought processes or communication styles, which, if this is left unchecked, it can be kind of annoying. I don't know if anyone out there has ever experienced that. It can also be downright maddening. However, Mercury in Virgo is also an editor, which is shaping and sharpening experience and information to refine them and to utilize what it is perfected in practical ways that can be used in the service of others. Mercury is also associated with magic, and I love this about Mercury. Its rulership of Gemini brings out more of the kind of trickster function, but in Virgo, Mercury is interested in the power of analysis, editing, and refining to find the right words, the right speech that holds the power to transmit information so it can have an impact in practical ways. Language is a spell, and Mercury in Virgo is interested in refining its language to perfect its spell. So I'm reading this essay by Genesis P. Orge from Psychic TV. And if you don't know who she is, check her out. Very interesting character. And I love Psychic TV and Throbbing Gristle, which was her first band. And she wrote a essay called Magic Squares and Future Beats, which is in a collection of essays called The Book of Lies. I meant to bring it out to show you, but it's in the other room, so forget about it. Anyway, this particular essay is about William S. Burroughs and his cut-up technique, and Burroughs and Brian Geisen as modern alchemists and magicians. Great essay. And it kind of got me thinking about Mercury and Virgo as an editor and the magic of being able to cut up, edit, and rearrange our recorded experiences in order to create a preferred reality. And this is magic, my friends. And I'd like to read you a couple quotes from the essay. Everything is recorded. If everything is recorded, then it can be edited. If it can be edited, then the order, sense, meaning, and direction are arbitrary and personal as the agenda and or person editing. This is magic. For if we all have the ability and or choice of how things unfold, regardless of the original order and or intention that they are recorded in, then we have control over the eventual unfolding. If reality consists of a series of parallel recordings that usually go unchallenged, then reality only remains stable and predictable until it is challenged and or the recordings are altered and their order changed. Sese goes on to say, in a pre-recorded universe, who made the first recording? So asked Brian Geisen and William Burroughs. Further, if we all if all we imagine to be reality is equivalent to a recording, then we become empowered to edit, rearrange, recontextualize, reproject by cutting up and reassembling our own reality and potentially the reality of others. If it is true and effective, then a magical act is taking place. And so this brings up these interesting ideas about editing and refining our own experience as a magical practice or act. How can we edit, rewrite, re-record experiences to begin to shape our perception of reality and the way that we engage with the world? If we think about this around making new memories, which can help overwrite past memories, which may have created unhelpful stories in our systems. As we record new as we record new experiences in ourselves, we can consider the ways that we can cut up and paste these into our narrative and alter both our perception of our past and our experience of the present. I bring this in because I like the idea of Mercury and Virgo being a magical editor that is helping us to rework core narratives to operate in a preferred and more functional way. I've also been thinking about this over the weekend. There was a, excuse me, there's a rumor that Donald Trump is dead. And I just saw this sort of like spread out over the internet. And I think that this is a really interesting way of editing reality and being like, okay, that's already done. That's already happened. And the energetic thought form that that creates is pretty interesting. To just consider, okay, like we have already moved into the preferred reality. We are collectively editing the tape that we are living out to create a new outcome or a different outcome or to move to a parallel world that has a better function and a better feeling. So just yeah, a couple of these things just sort of came up at the same time and really made me think about Mercury's power in Virgo as a magical editor. And I think that we can also think about this concept of magic and editing and Mercury and Virgo through the lens of Virgo being a service-oriented sign. And Mercury in Virgo is interested in refining the information that it is gathering and processing it so that it can be of service. And the question we might ask is, in the service of what? What does our mercurial mind want to be in the service of? And how does it want to be, or who does it want to be in service to? Are we in service to our own egos or political ideologies or external systems like money or scarcity? Or are we in the service of the spirit or our higher selves or our local or global communities? Are we in the service of love? If we take the hypothesis that everybody is in the service of something, then we may want to consider what we are serving. And through that lens, we can consider what spells we are casting with our thoughts and with our speech and with our attention. And we can think about if our actual practice of communication is in alignment with what we are seeking to serve. Um, and okay, moving right along. As soon as Mercury enters Virgo, they will come into a tense square with Uranus and Gemini at 1 degree and 27 arc minutes of these mutable signs. This is occurring Wednesday, September the 3rd. So Mercury has just moved into its home sign of Virgo, feeling pretty good. doing a lot of analysis, a lot of editing, getting to sharpening its points. And Uranus is in Mercury's other sign of Gemini, where it is innovating and revolutionizing how information is gathered and communicated. It is looking for radical new forms of communication and innovative new ideas. With this square, which is a tense aspect, we have the planet of communication and mental processes who is seeking to refine information that it's taking in and apply it in practical ways. And this tense aspect with Uranus, who is interested in revolutionary new ways of doing things and is seeking to break out of old systems and break down old, outdated frameworks to find new and innovative ways of doing things in the hopes of creating a little bit more freedom. This transit can lead to insights and inspiration. We may find ourselves interested in something new or novel, or we may notice some out of the box thinking, which is great, and the drive to innovate new solutions for problems that we have been working on. Uranus shakes us out of old modes of thinking. And while Mercury in Virgo is seeking to systematize information, Virgo is also a mutable sign. And Mercury here can adapt if it doesn't cling too rigidly to the systems that it is created to store and process information. Uranus can be a bit of a wake up call, which can cause us to shift out of our static or stale thought processes and old communication patterns. It can create disruptions which allow new information to come to light, or that invites us to explore new avenues of interest. Mercury is information hungry and loves novelty. And with this square to Uranus, we may find ourselves feeling pretty easily bored or in need of more mental stimulation than usual. And this is a quick transit. Mercury moves pretty quickly, so this may not last for very long. So you might not be feeling mentally bored and needing a bunch of novelty for too long. But just notice midweek if things sort of peak in these departments. There can be this sort of exploration for the right thing, and we may find ourselves going down rabbit holes or info tunnels, scrolling endlessly, seeking for the right thing to share or to cite or provide that sense of excitement that shakes us out of the mundane. This transit can be exciting as well as a tad bit destabilizing. And this can cause us to think about problems and situations in new and innovative ways, and we can get new insights that electrify us. Or we may receive shocking new information, which is a Uranus Mercury kind of signature, like shocking information. Lots of options and information coming in. There can be some extra chaos around this transit, and information might be coming in at high speeds. Mercury in Virgo's job is to sort through everything that's coming at us and find what feels right, the right thread to pull on, the right information to lend our attention to. And Uranus helps us to break out of old thought patterns so we can view things in new and innovative ways. Again, there may be a lot of nervous system activation, so watch out for getting stuck in your head or lost in your thoughts and trying to figure it out. Mercury and Virgo can get caught up trying to dissect everything that's coming in, and trying to do that with every new idea or racing thought might get pretty overwhelming. So watch out for things that overtax your nervous system this week, especially midweek. Uranus and Mercury in hard aspect can do a number on our nervous systems. This transit may feel a little jittery or like information overload. So you might want to go easy on the caffeine starting Tuesday, moving through Wednesday, or take adaptogens or find other ways to soothe your nervous system. Or you might want to practice tuning into your body and just check in with how you're feeling. Not what you think, not what you're thinking you're feeling, but how you're actually feeling in your actual body. You might want to find healthy and skillful ways of discharging some of that electrical and chaotic mental energy that might be swirling around come Wednesday, and finding ways of moving it through the system or moving it through the body. Things like physical movement, dancing, shaking, wriggling, writhing, running, whatever, you know, whatever works for you to keep that energy moving through so it doesn't all just get stuck in your head and overload the system, because that can lead to burnout. Um, Oh, and Gina Marie is asking what day the Epstein victims are going live in DC. I'm not really sure, but I'm interested to see if the Mercury square Uranus brings some shocking information to light around that situation. So, moving right along. Thursday, September the 4th, we have Mars in Libra, square Jupiter in Cancer. This is happening at 18 degrees and 35 arc minutes of these cardinal signs. So, this transit can cause us to feel pretty energetic and optimistic, which are great feelings. And this might be a welcome change after the Mars opposition to Neptune a few weeks back, which may have left us feeling drained or low energy. However, we might be really feeling ourselves with this transit and may overestimate our capabilities and energy levels just a little bit. So, this is a good time to check in and consider what is the right use of my energy instead of just jumping in and going buck wild because we are excited or have been feeling bored or all pent up from the Mercury square Uranus and being like, okay, I need to move this energy through. I got to do something. I got to do something. We just want to take, we don't want to just take action because we're bored and we want to make something happen or force something. Jupiter provides a sense that things will work out and helps us to cultivate a sense of faith. Faith. Mars wants to take action and is ready to battle and step up to the challenge that are and the challenges that are presented to them. So when these planets are in a tense aspect like a square, we can feel a bit big for our britches, and we can feel like we may have more energy than we actually do. We may feel like we're able to take on bigger challenges or than we actually have space for. And I believe that challenge offers us an opportunity for growth, which is great. And we want to lean into these spaces of challenge with some consideration of why we are doing it and what we are hoping to get out of it. And we want to be aware that we are not just overextending ourselves or racing into battle because we don't know what else to do with that energy that is spiraling around inside of us. Jupiter is also a planet of knowledge and wisdom. And as we move into this space and we may be tempted to be like, hey, y'all, watch this, hold my beer. And we want to really consider what we have learned from our past actions and the last time we did that, and how that can inform the places where we want to direct our energy come later this week. What do we know now that we didn't know last time? And how can we integrate that to help us be in right action instead of just feeling overly energized and going full berserker or wiling out like a Tasmanian devil? And sometimes right action means turning into a tornado and tearing things up. And sometimes it means really considering how we direct our energy into the right place at the right time and really focusing on our preferred outcome. Mars has a lot to do with willpower and how and where we direct our will. Jupiter is a planet of expansion, so we may feel motivated to try and expand our sphere of influence or our experience of life. Or it can look like trying to use our will to dominate situations or people. This is a good time to check in with ourselves and see if we are operating from an egocentric place. I've really got to make this happen because this is what I want. And Jupiter gives us an opportunity to create a little bit more spaciousness and to have a little bit of faith that maybe things will work out in a way that we don't need to force them. We can ask ourselves if we're being motivated by feelings of fear or scarcity to try and take hold of more than what we actually need. And we can try and consider what the right use of will might be in the situations that we encounter. So I've heard it said that Mars is like the right hand of the king, which we can also consider as the ego if we're thinking about this on an individual level. King is ego. Okay. Mars is like military power or hard power that goes out and enacts the will of the king or the ego through force. Jupiter is like the left hand of the king. They win friends and influence people and enact the will of the king through soft power. They offer charity, throw parties, put on events in order to entice people to go along with the agenda of the king or the ego, as the case may be. So, with these forces of hard power and soft power are both vying for control and trying to do their thing at the same time. We need to consider which type of power is right for the situations that we find ourselves in. Do we move forward through force of will, or do we succeed by inviting people over to our way through enhancing the vibe of a situation and offering kindness? And I can't tell you which is the right thing. We have to sort of consider that in ourselves. What is the right move in this situation? Do I use the Mars and just go in full tilt, or do I use the Jupiter and throw a party for people? Jupiter is also a planet of faith. And with this square, we are asked to navigate the tension between our will and allowing space for faith to help direct our actions. How do we hold enough space to trust in the forces that guide us, to have faith that when we tune into our inner knowing, we will intuitively know how to act and behave in situations, instead of feeling like we need to be consistently willing everything to go our way and struggling to make things happen the way we want them to. When we can bring the principles of faith and will into right alignment, we can trust that our actions are in accord with something bigger than our ego consciousness. And when they are out of sync, we may lack the trust in ourselves or in the universe, if you will, and we may feel like we need to constantly be fighting to make things go our way. And again, this is just something to consider how we hold both of these things and recognize, okay, what is the right way of navigating this situation? What is the right way of showing up today? Which brings us to Friday, September the 5th. On Friday, the 5th, Uranus stations retrograde at 1 degree and 27 arc minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And so Uranus will be retrograde from September the 5th all the way to February the 3rd of 2026. And they will retrograde back into Taurus on November the 7th. And they will station direct at 27 degrees and 35 arc minutes of Taurus on February the 3rd of 2026. And then they will re-enter Gemini on April 25th, 2026. And they will be in Gemini all the way until August of 2032. So hold on to your butts. Um, as Uranus stations retrograde and begins moving backwards through the early degrees of Gemini, we will be rethinking ideas of radical change and innovation. This is a time of going inward and rethinking what feels revolutionary for ourselves. This is not so much about external change, but what might need to shift in our internal landscape so we can be more authentic. This is a time of reconsidering what freedom feels like on an internal level and reviewing the places within ourselves where we are holding on to old stories that are preventing us from being free, authentic, or experiencing more liberation in areas of our lives. And so last night I just watched Eight and a Half, which is a film by Federico Fellini from, I believe, 1963. And this is a very Iranian film. The main character in it is 43, which is about the time that one experiences their Uranus opposition. It's the story of a director who's trying to make a film about his life that he just can't make. The film operates in non-linear time and weaves together memories and fantasies with the main character's current struggle of trying to get his film made. And basically, the main character is trying to understand himself and examining the places in his life where he is inauthentic in his career and romantic relationships, and is sort of seeking to connect with his muse or genius, which is a very Iranian thing, to help make this film. And this is the process of Uranus retrograde, where we are untangling old narratives in order to explore the places where we are inauthentic and the systems that have been created around us that keep us from being free and actually expressing our truth or our genius. It is it is this review process that helps us to find that spark of genius or that innovative idea that operates outside of the box of normal consciousness. And that it helps to liberate us from old thought forms that may have felt safe, but may have become too small to hold the person that we are needing to become. As we do this work on an individual level and find our unique voice that we can lend to the collective choir, it will help prepare us for the larger work of collective change that we may be called to participate in down the line. All right, moving along to Sunday, September the 7th. We have a full moon total lunar eclipse in Pisces occurring at 15 degrees and 22 arc minutes. The full moon is exact at 11:08 a.m. Pacific time, making that 2:08 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not exactly sure what time the eclipse is occurring, when it begins and when it ends, but I trust that you can look that up if you are so inclined. This is a North Node eclipse, and the moon in Pisces opposing Mercury in Virgo during the time of this eclipse. And the moon in Pisces is also trine Jupiter in Cancer, so there is mutual reception there, which is very beneficial. The moon rules Cancer, where Jupiter is exalted, and Jupiter rules Pisces, where the moon is currently hanging out and being eclipsed. Eclipses are a little dodgy. We can think about the moon being swallowed up during an eclipse, which is not a great experience. But Jupiter, being in trine to the moon, and the moon being in Jupiter's sign, provides some support and a little faith that the moon will get through this and come out the other side. And so this is a total lunar eclipse occurring on the North Node, which is also known as Rahu in the Vedic tradition. The nodes of the moon, Rahu, the North Node, Ketu, the South Node. Rahu is the head of the dragon, who chases the luminaries around the zodiac and swallows them during eclipses. With this eclipse, Rahu is swallowing the moon. Rahu is sort of pictured as a hungry ghost. It is imagined as a disembodied head that consumes and consumes, never knowing when they are full because they are separated from their belly. They're just a head with a hunger. And they have this insatiable hunger, and all they know how to do is eat. Rahu, or the North Node, is also considered to be a place that creates increase. Increase can be great, but it can also be problematic if we are increasing addiction issues, debt, illness, things like that. Even things that are seen as positive, like money or visibility, can become problematic if they are increased beyond the capacity of what one can hold. In evolutionary astrology, the North Node is thought of as a point that pulls us towards our destiny, where we are called to learn new ways of being and new ways of doing things in the world and in our lives. This can be kind of uncomfortable because it's a pull towards a new pattern, and new patterns are difficult to learn, and uncharted territory is uncomfortable to step into. This eclipse series is happening in the Virgo Pisces axis. We received the first eclipse set on we are receiving the first eclipse in the set on Sunday the 7th, and the second one, which is a partial solar eclipse, is happening on September the 21st, right before the fall equinox. So let's look at some themes around the Virgo Pisces axis where these eclipses are occurring, because this is what's being stirred up. With eclipses, we are looking at the moon's nodes, the North Node and the South Node, or Rahu and Ketu, as they are known in the Vedic tradition, because these are the points where eclipses occur. The moon's proximity to the nodes dictates how total an eclipse will be. For example, the full moon eclipse that we'll be receiving on Sunday, the moon is only 3 degrees away from the North Node, making it a total lunar eclipse. On the eclipse on the 21st, the moon will be 11 degrees away, making it more of a partial eclipse. Again, the North Node is a point of increase and developing new pathways, which is moving through Pisces, and the South Node is a point associated with decrease and habituated patterns, which is moving through Virgo. So with the nodes, we want to take the lessons that we have learned in the past and apply them to new territory, while letting go of old stories and habituated patterns that no longer serve us, to make space for new material to come into our systems to help us to learn new ways of being with ourselves and being in the world. The south node helps us to let go, and the north node helps us to take in or increase. In the Pisces Virgo axis, we are looking at the relationship of matter and spirit, and we are learning to balance discrimination with integration. Virgo being analysis, criticism, discrimination, kind of breaking things up, and Pisces being integrating them and bringing them back into the whole. It is the sort of dissolve and coagulate of the alchemical idea. Virgo is interested in analysis and improvement for practical application on the physical plane. Pisces is leaning towards emotional and spiritual connection. While Virgo seeks to break things down and analyze and refine their component parts, Pisces seeks to integrate and connect these things into a larger picture and a whole through breaking down boundaries and finding points of connection. Pisces reminds us that water seeks the lowest point and is constantly seeking to return to the source. This access is about learning to balance the physical with the spiritual and learning how to bring spirit into matter as well as spiritualizing the material. And again, we are looking at the places where we want to separate and break things down. And the North Node in Pisces is sort of pulling us to the ways that we can pull them all together into an undifferentiated whole and find these points of connection and find these points of union. And so eclipses are not great times for doing magic or trying to manifest things. They are times for rest and observation. There's a lot of power during the eclipses, and I've heard it sort of likened to trying to get power out of a socket by sticking a fork into it, which is not a great idea, so don't try that at home. During an eclipse, the luminaries are swallowed up and the normal order of things is disrupted. And this can bring a sudden change or fated events. This is a time of observation and tuning into our inner world, not trying to make things happen, because we might not have the capability to direct or control the power that is released during an eclipse, and we might not have the awareness of how things turn out. North node eclipses can make things too much or too big, too much increase, and we can get more than we bargained for. Whereas south node eclipses can be too little or things that show up unformed. So it's better to just allow and relax into it. And so during this eclipse set, we may notice themes from the past 6 months re-emerging since the last Pisces Virgo eclipse. And so we might find things returning or themes re-emerging, or we might find resolution with some of the things that we have been working on over the past 6 months. So this is a good time to notice what has been coming into your life and developing since the total lunar eclipse in Virgo back on March the 14th. Um, and this was the last eclipse we experienced in the Virgo Pisces axis before we had one final eclipse in the Aries Libra axis. Eclipses also tend to bring fated events into our lives, which can foreshadow the things that will unfold or unravel over the next stretch of time. And so this is, again, is a time to be quiet and listen and to reflect on the themes and threads that have been emerging in your current life, especially over the last 6 months or so. Again, eclipse is not a great time to do magic or manifestation because they are powerful and unpredictable times. So, some things to consider. We tend to be extra sensitive during eclipse season, and things can feel chaotic and a bit unhinged. So it's a good practice to take extra time to care for yourself and to resource yourself and the people around you in the ways that you can. There may be feelings of overstimulation, and it's a good practice to try and stay present with what's arising in you so we're not thrown off kilter. And just noticing what's going on in our internal landscape as the sort of power of the eclipses and the hunger of Rahu draws things to the surface and draws us into situations which may increase what's going on in our internal landscape. This is a good time to just witness and see what's arising within you and what's emerging in the external world. Great time to be quiet and to chill out. And, you know, this goes on for a couple of weeks, so we can't do this the entire time. We are still called to be in the stream of life, but making extra space to rest, to care for our nervous systems, to care for ourselves, to care for each other will be very beneficial. And don't try and just go hard in the paint for the next 2 weeks because there's a lot of activation and energy that we will be experiencing in the external world. So we want to find that healthy balance of being able to rest and chill and care for ourselves while still being able to participate in our lives. As we move through the eclipse portal, we may notice that the intensity is cranked up a notch. Eclipse season brings us into a space of non-ordinary reality, so we want to act accordingly, knowing that things are not operating within the usual structures of normative consciousness. And we can consider the ways in which we are trying to separate or criticize or keep things separated or focus in on the little parts or the minutia of things. We also might want to think about the ways that we are trying to cling to thoughts or ideas of perfection. And these are things that we might be called to let go of or just to notice. Ideas of perfection, or it's got to be just this way, or it's got to be just right. And we may find ourselves looking for places or being called to places where we can integrate the things that have been separated out, the ways that we have created separation in our lives. And we may be called to lean into connection, empathy, and integration. These eclipses remind us that the work that we do in the physical world can also be in service of the spirit. And again, there can be this idea of it's got to be perfect, and we may be called to abandon those ideas and recognize the inherent perfection in everything just the way it is. And this doesn't mean that things can't get better, that we have to just accept, oh, this is the way it is. I guess that's perfect. End of story, case closed. But I think that we can hold both things. The way that it is right for right now, and also what are the ways that this can be better? What are the ways that I can be in connection with something greater than myself in order to create the vision that I can begin refining and refining to help to create my preferred reality? We can also think about the ways that we can make space for the spirit in our daily lives and practices, and how we can practice being in connection with something greater than ourselves as our part of our routines and rituals of living. And with that, my friends, that's all the astro weather that is fit to print. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Labor Day Monday. I really appreciate your attention. I hope that something that I said was helpful to somebody out there. And if it was, I don't know, share it with your friends, pass the word along. It's nice to get it out there to whoever might benefit from this practice. Again, my name is John Emerson Bell. I'm a tarot reader, astrologer, and licensed mental health counselor. I offer tarot and astrology readings as well as astrology-based coaching. And if you're interested in any of those services or just want to hit me up, you can find me on Instagram at Blind Stallion Space Wizard. That's underscores in between the words. And my website is campwizardcamp.com. I'll be here next Monday, same wizard time, same wizard channel. And then after that, I will be traveling for about 3 weeks, and I will keep trying to bring this practice to you. I don't know if I'm going to hit my 11-ish time slot on Monday, but I'm going to do the best that I can with what I got, and I'll still be going live, still be recording the YouTube and the podcast so that y'all can know what's going down in space. And yeah, have a little patience, have a little space, and I wish you all a very chill eclipse season. I hope that you are able to make the space to take care of yourselves and each other. And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, my friends, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, may the force be with you. See y'all next time. Bye now.